Hi, vinyl community.
Good evening.
Yes, VC session, August 2014.
2014 number, we don't know.
Don't know. Right, well, we're going to go
Nice
straight
to see everybody.
in. Yeah, very good session today.
Very good. We were veering wildly. I
Yeah.
think, there wasn't a lot of fun.
Not a lot of dot joining.
No.
We started off with the new Michel Ndegeocello album, Comet Come to Me, which for me is probably one of the best sounding records of the year. It really sounds fantastic on vinyl. And we listened to the track called Shopping for Jazz that has some lovely Michel bass playing on it.
Yeah.
Sounded good.
Fantastic artist, I think. I then started off the vinyl session with the CD and went for the last Chocolate Genius record, which is called Swan Song, which I hope isn't a Swan Song, because that would be very sad, actually. Great artist. Somebody I think is, always think of it in a way as almost like a male equivalent of Michel, actually. If you haven't checked his music out before, I think I've shown, we've actually played him before at a session, I think, actually, and played the track Like a Nurse. But this is kind of much more kind of moodier, more acoustic sounding record than the last two or three, but it's really good. Chocolate Genius, Swan Songs.
And with a very understated vocal style.
Yeah.
Which I guess was probably the reason why I picked Talk Talk's Laughing Stock and the very understated vocal style of Mark Hollis on the track New Grass. I kind of was listening to this, I'd heard Guy Garvey from Elbow do his Desert Island Discs on Radio 4 last week, and you have to pick sort of 10 tunes that you'd have on a desert island if you had to make a choice, and then at the end you have to choose one track which was the one that you would have to take, and he picked New Grass. Sounded very nice.
Good taste.
Yeah.
Well done, Guy. Then I played what's becoming almost my obligatory Yola Tango track. I seem to play it every session. This is from the album that really got me into them, I think, more than any other, which was Painful, and played the track called Southern Organ. I mean, I've been on a Yola Tango obsession for about nearly a year now, and it doesn't seem to be going away. Well, it's been going on for longer than a year. It's been going on for about 10 years, but it's been coming back for the last year or so.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how he went from Yola Tango to Slint, but we did, and this is that I knew very little about this band. I've been turned on to them by a string composer who I've been working with recently, and it was an unlikely suggestion from her. It's Bobby Jane. But yeah, great album. We listened to Good Morning Captain, which again had sort of very intimate vocals, but then incredibly intense guitar happening. And yeah, I can see why people rave about this album. Very, very ahead of its time when it came out.
I think the intense guitar made me think about Mark Rebo, but I played a track that wasn't very intense from Tom Waits's Mule Variations, and this came out on vinyl, 180 gram vinyl, before it was fashionable to bring things out on 180 gram vinyl, and sounds great. Played the track called Hold On. Kind of late period Tom Waits. Good stuff.
Yeah. And we went from that. Who was drumming on that?
On the Tom Waits?
Yeah.
It was Thingy, wasn't it, from Primus? Well, the track I played, there was nobody drumming at all, actually. No.
I'm trying to think how we ended up
I don't know.
On a John and Beverly Martin album, Stormbringer, but the bass and drum combination of Levon Helm and Harvey Brooks, and a track actually that really didn't feature John Martin's vocal at all was all Beverly, which is the track called Sweet Honesty. And yeah, just a fantastic kind of groove track. Yeah, definitely a real kind of a band kind of rhythm section, but with a kind of English folk vocal.
Yeah,
Quite interesting.
and there was actually a connection between that track and this one, because I played the melody of the genetic method and Chess Fever off the band's Rock of Ages. This is a copy which I got when it came out. It's double album, triple kind of cover, great live album, arrangements by Alan Toussaint, amazing horn section on it. And of course Levon Helm playing drums, so there was
and some very out there organ playing.
very out there organ playing from Garth Hudson, who I think is massively underrated as a musician. The horn section includes Joe Farrell, Howard Johnson, Snooky Young, all kinds of Earl McIntyre, all kinds of good players.
So we were gradually heading into groove territory, and it's just an ultimate groove is what was it? Happy. Thank you, Africa. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Last track on side one, I think. Just an amazing, very innovative Sly Stone track with a monster grooving bass line. Very, very kind of minimal, and definitely this is the album where he was spending an awful lot of time sort of overdubbing, and I think the tape was gradually disintegrating. It causes a very kind of dynamic mix of instrumentation, so it's very uncompressed, and sounds sort of pop out when you least expect them.
Definitely.
Very kind of compelling stuff. Sounds great.
Definitely. I'm thinking of Sly, and thinking of, because Bobby Womack's all over that record. He plays all over the place. And thinking of obviously Bobby's sad passing. I played the track Daylight off Safety Zone, which is I think one of my favourite Bobby Womack albums. Produced by David Rubinson, who produced a lot of the Herbie Hancock records, and there's a kind of almost the Headhunters on this record on some tracks.
Wawa Watson.
All kinds of people. James Gadsden's on here, Willie Weeks, Louis Johnson, and Herbie himself on track. Anyway, great album. Love Bobby Womack. Very sad he's gone. I'm very upset about that.
And carrying on with our Bobby Womack tribute, I played a Bobby Womack track, but by the UK band called Kokomo, who were very big I say very big, they were around in the early to mid 70s, and they were kind of doing a UK version of funk and soul, I guess. I particularly was enjoying the guitar work of Jim Mullen, who's all over the track. It's kind of a slightly more disco-fied version, but very much with a UK twist, but yeah, kind of good.
Also features Mel Collins, of course.
It does.
Don't know what the connection was. I was thinking of probably UK and thinking of funk and soul orientated influenced band, and thinking of Ian Dury. And played, what did I play actually? I don't know what I played.
You played Clever Trevor?
Clever Trevor off New Boots and Panties. If you have never heard Ian Dury, you should do actually. I mean,
Fantastic album.
Great album actually. I remember seeing an interview with him where he said a lot of people saw them as being a bit of a novelty band, but he was really trying to make something almost like the UK equivalent of Steely Dan, and I think he kind of succeeded in that.
A bit more gritty.
Anyway, great stuff.
Yes, and Chaz Jankel was the keyboard player and co-writer on quite a few of those Ian Dury tunes, and when he left Ian Dury's band, he did some work with Quincy Jones, so that was my connection to play a track off the Quincy Jones Gula Matari album, and we listened to a track called Hummin' that had a phenomenally loud sound and incredibly enormous horn section happening, and sounded very, very good.
Did I play this next? Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
I think you might have done.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm not quite sure what the connection between.
Maybe we had a break.
We might have had a break.
We
probably had a break
break
for a plum and some cheese.
Yeah.
So I played a track off Bill Laswell's Dub Chamber 3. I noticed actually that I think it was Roger Coleman was actually playing some Bill Laswell stuff, or showing some Bill Laswell stuff a little while ago. And this is an album with Nils Petter Molvar, Jar Wobble, Nicky Skopolitis, I don't know how you pronounce his name, the wonderful Craig Taborn, and Karsh Kale on it as well. and I played the track, an excerpt from a track called "A Stream Comes Across the Sky." All that's all.
Sounded great. I've rediscovered this album, Prince Lincoln and the Royal Rasses. They're actually just billed as the Rasses here. It's called Experience. And we listened to a track called Slave Driver. And Prince Lincoln Thompson has a very, very distinctive falsetto voice. And it was a kind of interesting track, kind of had a real kind of Nyabingi drumming underpin, but then with a kind of quite non-reggae bass line over the top.
Yeah.
Some beautiful harmonies.
And great drumming. Sounded like Leroy Horsemouth Wallace to me.
It was Leroy
Well,
Horsemouth
I just read it on the back,
Oh,
but
okay.
it sounded like him. I thought that even before I read it on the back.
And
actually.
some lovely guitar playing from Ernest Ranglin, actually.
Leroy played with Bernie Spear. Yeah, with Bernie Spear.
Yes.
A lot of time. What the connection between that and Terry Ripdahl was, I don't know, but I got this out anyway. This was one of his first records for ECM. This is a double album. It was reissued as a single CD and then came out as a double CD. It's kind of very influenced by Miles Davis's Bitches Brew. It's an electric band, also featuring trombone and organ as well. So forth. Nice stuff actually. Good album if you haven't checked it out. And Terry Ripdahl's made dozens of records for ECM, and this was I think the first one I ever got from him. I think it's now been reissued as a double CD, so you get the whole of the. There's a very long track which was left off the original issue. I think. Good stuff. Terry Ripdahl.
I think we were in our sort of esoteric selection
We
period.
must
here.
have been in the esoteric selection period.
There's a record shop I go to in Whitstable, which unfortunately has a UKIP poster on the front.
UKIP is the UK Independence Party,
We're not big fans.
which is a very right-wing, anti-immigration party. in the
Yeah,
UK.
and whenever I go to the record shop, the guy always, whatever I choose, he always says, "Yeah, you really like very esoteric records, don't you?" Which
You'll probably be rounded up if you get against it. Probably against the law to play some of the stuff in India.
Anyway, I've just been on holiday to Sweden, and I'd like to say hello to Jonas and to Anders. And it transpired that I actually was.
You weren't on holiday with Anders.
I wasn't on holiday with either of them,
Okay.
but it did transpire that in fact I was very close to where Jonas works. So hi Jonas, and next time I'm over there, I'll definitely check you out. And I was introduced to a great second-hand vinyl record shop. Well, it's kind of like someone's house really, with a couple of rooms full of vinyl. One room which was just full of vinyl that was the equivalent of sort of 50p an album, and I bought this Festival of Electronic Music, recorded in Stockholm in 1979, and we listened to the first track called Directions by Rolf Enstrom, which had just very kind of spacious but kind of quite aggressive sounding Moog synthesizer.
It's recorded at the Electronic Music Studio, which is in Stockholm, and it's just been redone. So
And you have a connection,
if
John.
Mats Wickstrom is watching this YouTube clip, hello Mats. A lot of stereo going on with that, with the
Yeah.
electronic piece, and made me think slightly seriously of Derek Bailey when he still had his stereo set up. And I think my favourite album by Derek, which is New Sights Old Sounds, which was recorded live and in the studio in Japan. Great sound on it, really kind of intimate sound. Been reissued on CD, I think. This is pretty rare, I have to say. The vinyl, beautifully produced record, nice pressings, good recordings,
Sounds
nice
great.
chunky
Really nice.
cover.
Lovely.
That's Derek looking out of his window in Hackney in East London.
Staying in our kind of more experimental side of town, I played Taylor McFerrin, his album called Early Riser, and we played the track called Invisible Visible. Taylor McFerrin is Bobby McFerrin's son, and that was Bobby McFerrin, not Robert Wyatt, who we were hearing.
Right, so I thought it sounded like Robert Wyatt.
Cesar Camargo Mariano.
Good. Excellent.
It's on the. I think it's on the. Yeah, it's on the Brain Feeder. record label, so the Flying Lotus record label.
Is Thundercat on that level? No, it's not.
I think
Is it?
Thundercat may appear somewhere on this.
Okay. Not sure the next collection, but
Bit of a Brazilian.
bit
vibe.
of Brazilian vibe going on, which made me think of Arthur Veracai. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was an arranger, composer, musician, still is possibly. Actually, I'm not sure whether he's still around or not. Late 70s. This, I have to say, is a reissue on Love and Hate Records from the States. The original of this cost an absolute fortune, very expensive. This is his first album, which we played a track called Sylvia from this. Really nice, kind of cross between Milton Nascimento, Marcus Fowle, and almost a bit of Frank Zappa going on in there as well, actually. Very nice record.
Kind of the mood of that track made me think of the track called Soul Sides from this album by Art Farmer, which is called Gentle Eyes. I think it may have been Fred, Big Star 1000, who showed this a while back. Yeah, this track in particular has a great groove, some beautiful string arrangements, and some lovely trumpet. As a whole, the album's a little bit on the soft side, but Soul Sides, the track, I think is fantastic.
And then next up, only because it was just completely bizarre. This is Mark's house. I come to Mark's house with one box of records, and the chances of me having an Art Farmer record with me are pretty slim. So I did. So I thought I'd better play it as well, actually. And this is one of the later period CTI records, Art Farmer with Joe Henderson, also featuring Steve Gadd, Mike Manieri, Don Grolnick, and Will Lee featured very much on the track I played. A track called Lotus Blossom, which David Sanborn did later on, actually did a version of. Yeah, great bass playing.
Some lovely kind of fretless bass playing that doesn't sound like Jacko, which is always refreshing.
Yeah, very much so.
Really nice, very, very nice.
So
again,
two from Art Farmer, which was
not part of the script.
Part of the plan at all.
Again, the feel. So these last few tracks all had a kind of quite a mellowish feel, and it felt right to play. I think it was "What's Your Secret" from the new Sid Arthur album, which is called Sound Mirror. As you probably know, I'm quite a big Sid Arthur fan. I'm noticing that quite a few other people are becoming fans of them too, which is great. So yeah, really great album and very distinctive Canterbury UK prog folk electronic style, and they're doing really well at the moment, which is fantastic.
I wasn't quite ready to go mellow, so I went for Sparkle Horse's Happy Man from the Distorted Ghost EP. Kind of really been getting into Sparkle Horse again recently. Yeah, not much to say about the track. There's some story about the track. I mean, in a sense, it's almost like a pop tune, but it's covered in static and all kinds of distortion. And I think the label were desperate to try and get a clean version of it they could put out of a single, but I don't think Mark Linkus agreed with them. Anyway, love Sparkle Horse from School EP, this actually.
Then bang up to date again. A very nice track from the Joan as Policewoman new album, the classic. We listened to the track called Holy City, which I absolutely love. It's got some fantastic Moog bass synth on it, and also a great cameo appearance from Reggie Watts towards the end of the track. Yeah.
Keep talking, Mark.
Oh, okay. Highly recommended. Very nice double vinyl album. Very nice inner sleeves. Nice gatefold cover.
Yeah, it sounded good. Actually, particularly like that synth bass line. It sounded amazing. No real connection apart from fact, female singer, but there was a documentary on Roberta Flack on British television a little while ago, which was great. She talked a lot about G. McDaniels and the kind of relationship with him, his writing and so forth for her. So I played the track Compared to What, her first album.
Which is a classic.
Which is a classic album, actually.
And it ensured that our ensured that our obligatory appearance from Ron Carter.
Yeah, we always have to have Ron. We always seem to have Ron Carter at every
Yeah.
session, so he was on there as well.
Yeah. Well, this was another session first. Don't often play Harry Belafonte, but actually this is his Returns to Carnegie Hall album, and live album, and a very, very kind of arrestingly intimate and beautifully sung track called Suzanne. That's what we listened to.
Sounded really good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just Harry and a guitar.
Next up, I went for Randy Newman, off Good Old Boys, the track Louisiana 1927, which is just a great song, actually. I never really got into Randy Newman at the time when he was around. In the 70s, still around now, of course, but in the 70s when he was first on the scene. But I got into him more and more recently. Great songwriter, nice playing.
My final track, I just picked a very short track off this album, which is Bruce Palmer's The Cycle is Complete. I think I've got to thank Jonas. I think I'd seen him talk about this. He kind of compared it to David Crosby's If Only I Could Remember My Name. It's definitely very much from that period, though I'd say less song-based and more kind of stoned jam vibes, with Rick James on percussion, although Rick was known as something else at that time, I believe. He was
Big Black.
Was he Big Black? He was Rick Matthews.
Oh, Rick Matthews.
But really, really lovely sounding album this, and a beautiful reissue. Lovely. I don't know how you just very kind of nice matte, thick cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a. I think Laurel Canyon at 3 in the morning was a description for what this might have sounded like in 1971.
Definitely. And of course, Rick James, Bruce Palmer used to play with Neil Young in Buffalo Springfield, and Rick James and Neil Young were in a band together.
Indeed.
Which is kind of interesting. And last up, a new record, a new CD from Touch, which I have a kind of on-off. I worked with at different times in the past, and it's a new record by Hilda Gudnadottir, who's from Iceland. It's called Saman, and she's a cellist, also sings, and this is her new release. Very beautiful, very peaceful, and coming out in actually gorgeous cover as well from John Wozencroft from Touch. It's coming out on vinyl, I think on September the 1st, so I'll be definitely getting a vinyl copy of this as well. That's my last record.
Great. Well, that was it.
That was it.
So yes, we're trying to get a mixcloud link. We recorded every tune that we did, and we're hoping to upload that, and we will post a link if anyone wants to actually hear what we've just been talking about. So in the meantime, be well.
Yeah.
Give us a few comments.
Yeah.
And see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks for watching.